now we're coming back to InDesign, and we're going to work in chapter 5. Is it 5? Which is tabs and tables. Yeah, Ben.
My screen wasn't captured.
Your screen wasn't captured. Would it be painful for you to switch seats? I don't know why some do and some don't, to tell you the truth. It's kind of random. There's one right next to Sunny up here. Oh, and there's that one. Is somebody sitting there? I don't. Sorry, not sure why. Do you have yours set up as Windows?
Windows?
No, I don't know why some do and some don't. Okay. All right, what I'd like to do is go to chapter 5, the artwork and resources, and look at the student handout here and talk about what it is we're going to focus on, which is tabs and tables. And I personally understand that people find tabs and tables hard, for example, because I think for the most part, nobody's ever learned tabs or tables even in typing, like in Microsoft Word, for example. Is there anybody in here who does Excel charts?
I've done it.
Okay. If you've done Excel charts, tabs and tables is easy. If you haven't done Excel charts, it's a little challenging, but once you get the hang of it, it's kind of magical. Yeah, Thomas?
Our screens got re-released.
It got re-released. Okay, Ben, rev yours up, and I'm going to pause. Okay, so if we look at the student handout for chapter 5, tabs and tables, mostly we're going to focus on alignment. That's really what it is. Everything's about alignment. It's about setting up tabs that have left, center, and right alignment, and then creating these dots, which are called leaders, L-E-A-D-E-R. And the only other thing we'd pay attention to would be decimal points, aligning those. And that's what tabs are all about, learning how to align left, right, center, add a leader to it, and focus on a decimal point. When we look at something, let me just create a new InDesign document and set it up just randomly. And let me come back to this and see if I can highlight all this text. Let me copy it and make a text box. And I paste it in the text. And let me zoom into it. Actually, let me make the text box smaller so I can get you a lot of screen here. Okay. So when you use tabs and tables, it's all about, it was funny, Lauren said she's an organized person, so she kind of got into the tab and table zone. It's true. It's all about being organized. It's all about making something that's legible and clearer to read. And again, if I go back to this PDF document, I notice here, there's the category, which is milkshake, sundae, or float, a description of it. So if I were describing it, I'd probably make these italic because I think it describes it better, but I'm not going to get that crazy. And then the reason you add a leader is to help carry your eye across a page to the number signs. And then when you do dollars or numbers, always know that the cents columns line up. It's like when you were a kid and you were learning about dollars and cents and decimal points. They always had to line up to be clear what they are. And then you always want to line up your dollar signs. Now what they don't give you here is a $12 milkshake, and I'm going to set you up for that so you can understand it better. So here we are. We're at this one, and our topic is warm-up, and then it's milkshakes, sundaes, and floats. So how I'm going to think about this is I'm going to draw a guide here. I'm going to pull off a guide. So essentially, from here to here, from the left edge to the right edge of that guide to the text box, that's where we have our category, milkshakes, sundaes, and floats, because I'm talking this through with you. Then a little bit further over, for example, we're going to have the beginning of what describes the milkshake, sundae, or float. And then down over here, our eye's going to, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Our eye's going to go all the way across the page over here to where our dollar sign's going to be. And I'm going to show you this, so our milkshake, because it's so big, it's super large, it's a supersized milkshake, it's $12 milkshake. All right, because because dollar signs don't always line up. You have to line up decimal points, and you always line up these dollar signs as well, and I'll show you what I mean by that.
Either that or it's Starbucks.
Either that, right, or at Starbucks, we've got a Trente. What is that, more than a Vente? Is that what they call it? Is that true?
30.
No, at Starbucks, don't they have something like Super Mondo Humongous? It's,
Oh, yeah.
what's it called?
Trente.
A Trente. Okay. All right, no longer a Vente, now we're a Trente, right? So now you need a gallon jug to go to Starbucks. Okay, so when you highlight tabs, one thing super important to know about tabs is that your text has to be selected in order for a tab to apply. The other thing you need to know about tabs is there's two ways to approach it. I can put my tabs in where I know I want them right now, like hit a tab in front of large, hit a tab in front of the dollar sign, hit a tab in front of the money amount, and I can do that on each of these. So let me show hidden characters so you can see what I just did. And so I can hit a tab here, a tab here, a tab here, because I know where I'm breaking them. A float, we have vanilla, ice milk, and then a tab in front of the dollar sign and a tab in front of the dollar. And the reason why I hit my tabs first, it doesn't look very good because it's not aligned, because I haven't told my tabs where they're supposed to go. So if I highlight all my text and I go to type and tabs, a little window comes up above my text box. And notice in the upper corner of tabs, there's a left arrow, a centering arrow, a right arrow, a decimal point arrow, and then whatever I want for my leader to be. This one talks about the x coordinate for the tab. See, back to that xy coordinate stuff? All right. Now, I'm not good at measuring. I'm good at eyeballing. Sometimes tabs need to be precise. Sometimes they don't. But I'm going to start with a left tab that I want the word large and 2 scoops and vanilla ice milk to line up. Everything left aligns here, so I don't need a tab in front of any of those things. So I'm going to take my tab, which is active, my left one. I don't have to do anything except click on my little ruler here where I want that tab to be, and there it is. See how everything moved for it? Because I told those tabs to behave there. Now I want my dollar sign tab to be right where I put my cursor, over by 3.5 inches. And notice my left tab is active, so all I have to do is click here, and that tab behaves. Right? Everybody follow that? All right, now I put a tab in front of my dollar signs, but I don't want this to be a right tab or a left tab. I want to align my decimal points. And I want to align them super close to the dollar sign so the dollar sign's not so far away. Because if we come back here, notice everything was only dollars, not $12, right? So I didn't need to set a tab here in front, after the dollar sign in front of the numbers. But I chose to here because I wanted all of my dollars to line up accurately. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a tab about right here, and that's my left tab. It's active, but I don't want it. See, it's blue, it's active, and it's active over here, and I've placed where I want it to go, but I'm going to change it now to be a decimal point tab. And just by clicking on it while it's active, it made it a decimal point tab. And I actually like the position because I wanted the 12 close to the dollar sign. So if right now I go to preview mode, you'll get a sense of how clean this looks in preview mode. So everything's pretty lined up, except actually I'm thinking here, these aren't lined up for some reason. Do you guys see that? Yeah, I see it too. Something's off, so let's figure it out. So we'll set it up here. Oh, it's my decimal point tab. I used the right tab. That's the right tab there. So I'm going to move this over a little bit, and now it's better, right? It was too close to the dollar sign, so it didn't work. So that's tabs. There's really no more magic than that. Now, for the tab that has in front of the decimal point from here to here, so this tab, let me click off this. Let me come back over here and click on this tab right there. That's my left tab. If I want to add the ... thing going on, the leader, I just select here and I hit a period, just one, no spacing, and hit a return, and it puts in all my dots all the way. Now, the only other thing you have to watch for is something like this. There's probably no period after the word milk. That's kind of silly. And there's probably no periods here because you want to watch how the spacing impacts that dot, dot, dot. So I'm deleting these things that I'm highlighting and deleting. So that looks pretty simple, right? Okay. Let me show you the assignment that you have, which I'm not sure if they give you a template for it. But this assignment, again, we know how to intuit swashes. We can figure out the fonts. We know how to do the rules. We just did that, so I don't need to demo it. But what I want you to notice here is also there's a right aligning tab to make the minutes line up on this little chart here. And this is a left alignment, and this is a right alignment. And again, I want to talk about how I would set up this document because if I remember correctly, they actually don't set it up properly for you in the book. So this is assignment B and family history. And if I open this in InDesign, well, they don't give you anything. Don't you love their templates? Here's your template, okay? All right, so I'm going to do this differently because what they gave you is an 8.5 by 11 page for a template, and I think that's criminal, personally. Yeah.
I made a template for that one.
And John, on the other hand, made a template on his website. Did you make it the accurate page size for them and everything? Maybe.
No, I don't remember.
It's last semester. We'll find out. Okay, so what I would do is this. I would look at this document and I would make a totally new document. And again, I want to make some observations for you here. Let's see who's smart enough to follow this. So this has this brown stroke around the outside of the document, right? Who knows what would happen if I set up my document and I stroked it brown? Who knows what would happen? Lauren?
It would be like a border on the outside of the frame instead of on the inside.
Right, it would be a border on the outside of the frame. So the only way I'm going to get a really pretty clean edge like this is not to make a document and draw a rectangle box. I need to create something with a bleed. So let me show you how I'm going to set that up. So my document is 3 by 7 inches. I'm going to go to InDesign. Let me set this to the side. I'm going to make a new document, Command N for new. I'm going to turn off facing pages. I'm going to set up a bleed because I want a bleed here of an 1/8 of an inch, which is the default. I'm going to set up a margin guide, maybe an 1/8 of an inch because it looks like there's hardly need for margin here. And actually I'll make it a 1/4 of an inch. And then my document is going to be 3 inches wide by 7 inches tall. And I'm going to do this quickly because I realize I'm running out of time with this today. Okay, so here's our document. This is what I'd like to show you, and I'm going to do this a little bit rapidly since you're watching. Mostly what I would do first is I would probably look at this border. If I create, for example, a border, a stroke on a rectangle like this, and I make my stroke large, notice what's going to happen. It's not going to give me enough bleed to trim this off. And so instead, how I would probably set this document up to bleed better is I would draw a rectangle and I would go from the bleed to the bottom. And what I'd probably do with this document is I'd fill it with a brown. And the reason for that is I'd have a super clean, heavy-duty edge that would trim out cleaner. And I'm just making some random brown. There we go. Okay. And that's how I set it up. And then what I do is this. I click off of it. I go to File, Place. I locate the graphic. in chapter 5, the family history, the photo. My cursor loads, and the photo bleeds, but it's inset a little bit from the edge. So, I'm sorry, it doesn't bleed. So the photo, I would click and drag, and it's about an 1/8 inch from the border like that. And that's probably how I place the photo. Now, if I remember correctly, yeah, it's pretty much in position. Notice their proportions are a little different and how the photo is scaled and how it trims. There's not as much top showing, right? And that's probably because they placed the photo and stroked the box. Do you follow me? Everybody's understand what I'm describing? They probably put the photo in the upper left corner, dragged it, and then made a box around it. But they're not going to get a clean bleed on this, and that's why I wouldn't have set it up that way. So probably instead what I would do if I wanted it trimmed like this is I would probably use my white arrow, my content arrow, click on the content of the box, go up here, make sure proportions are set, and just increase the size of this graphic and move it within there. And I'm cropped probably more similarly to what they have. Yes or no, I'm not sure. I don't want to spend a lot of time with that. What I'm focused very much on is setting this up properly for the bleed and helping you with your tabs. And then the other thing is, I don't think that this document had, let me click off of it. Let me click off the photo. I don't think this document gave you the text. I think you have to type it, which you do. So we know that John considers this one of the 3 sins in life. So we're going to the PDF, we're copying it, we're going to come back to our document, we'll use our type tool, and probably the easiest way to set this up would be to just make a text box sit within those margins. It's probably what I would do. That's the cleanest, easiest way for me to set this up. And then in here, I'm going to, oh, I see, I can't, I got to do that brown color, the yellow color. I'm going to paste my text. And actually what I have to do is I have to align this box with the photo. So I'll hold my shift key down, I'll select the box, the text box and the photo. I'll go to Window, Object Layout, Align. I'll left align them so they're perfect. I'll click on the photo box. I'll copy this because I see that it's a random size of 2.777. So I'm going to copy it. I'm going to click off of it. I'm going to click on my text box. I'm going to paste that width in the text box because then I didn't have to remember the number, right? See, I do things as easy as I can. And then the other thing is it's a light yellow box. So now I'm going to fill this box with yellow, and that's not a good yellow. So I can double click on my yellow and tweak it a bit. And yeah, life's a bitch, right?
Is this supposed to be CMYK?
And yeah, everything should be set up as CMYK. So let's see how that color looks. That's not so bad, right? Let's take it down a notch, take it down a notch. And now we filled it with that cream. The other thing you observe now that we made the box the same width as the photo, I need to inset my text. Who knows what the shortcut key is for that? Yep, Command B, you betcha. Object text frame options. I'm going to click on preview so I can look at it. I'm going to make it equidistant all around. So I'm going to click my chain link here so it's equal. And that looks pretty good to me. And say, OK. Then the other thing is, what I probably do is select all because my text is overflowing my box. See that right there? And I'm going to pick the smallest point size so I can see all my text, which is Myriad Pro 10 on 12. So let's just get there. Myriad Pro 10 on 12. Let's still make that a default 12 instead of auto. And see if everything's showing up, and it is. I'm thinking my text box is smaller than their text box. So probably what I would do, because I might make this smaller. So let me just make this a little bit smaller, 10 on 12. There. And the only thing I really want to focus on for you, because everybody's clear on how to make these first 4 lines of type, correct? Because we just demoed that today? Okay. Then instead, all I'm really going to focus on right here is this. Yes, John?
Their text box butts the photograph and the bottom.
Oh, their text, thank you. Their text box butts up to the photo and comes down to 1/8 of an inch from the bottom. That's the difference. Okay? Good observations. Everybody with me on that? With John on that, actually. Okay, then the only thing we really need to do is notice here that the minutes right align, the description of the speakers left align, and the person who's speaking or sponsored it right aligns. Now, so what I'm going to do is highlight all my text to make it active, go to Type and Tabs. I'm going to make a right tab right here. See, I'm setting this up first before I put my tabs in. You guys all following me? So I made a right tab there, and I'm eyeballing it, and I might need to pull it over a little more. I'm going to make a left tab right here, but my right tab is selected, so let me make it left tab. Now that's a left tab. And I don't need a tab for the last right alignment. I will show you what happens. Yeah, Thomas.
Isn't your first one a center tab?
It's supposed to be a right tab, but you're right. You're right, thank you. It's a right tab now. Thank you. Okay, so watch this. So here I hit my tab in front of the 8. I hit my tab in front of the K. And in front of the D, I hit, follow this, I don't know if your book tells you to do this, a shift tab, which means whatever's on that line goes to the far right, shift tab. So in front of the 9, I hit my tab. So let me show hidden characters so you can see why that's working. There. I lost my proportions for this thing. But in front of here, I'm going to hit a tab. It's not working yet because I haven't hit the tab for break, but now it works. Hit a tab in front, hit a tab here, in front of the D, a shift tab. Okay? Everybody get that? And the reason why it all works, again, tab here, tab in front of writing, and a shift tab for David. Yeah, which is why I think I set up my text box wrong, because you shouldn't be on another line. Myriad Pro Condensed. Did I do it wrong? Oh, I know why. It's Myriad Pro Condensed. There we go. That changes everything, doesn't it? All right. So is that clear for everybody on how to set up that one? All right. Then I'm going to stop that one and move to the calendar. So let me pause this. Okay, for the next one, you have a choice. You can either do this beach ball, by the way, or you can do this one for one of your assignments. And then you have a choice of doing, I think this chart, this is a chart made through tabs and tables, or this one. And I find this one far more fun, personally. It's a calendar. So let me change the view of this. Rotate view counterclockwise. So when I look at this, I assess it. Again, it's probably an 8.5 by 11 page. They placed a graphic. And then tabs and tables are really hard because it's hard to get your arms around what you're doing when you do it. So let me just talk it through. Let me make a new InDesign document, and let me make it wide, not tall. And nothing about this page, I believe, is going to bleed. So let me set it up as not a bleed and say OK. And then when we look at this, half of the page is taken up by this sunflower artwork, and the other half is the table. So first thing I'm probably just going to do to ground my page and make it pretty to work on is to go locate the sunflower and place it. And it's placed in the links. And they're letting you place a PDF file, which wouldn't be my first choice for you, but I'm going to put it at 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch in and 1/4 inch down, and click and drag down to 1/4 inch, and there's our sunflower. And then the first thing I always do after I've done anything to a document is save it. And you should probably name it more appropriately than I just did, which is O5F and torf. I'm going to put it in here and save it. And this is what I want you to see. Now again, I'm going to intuit this tabs and tables thing. So if we're making a chart, tabs and tables is all about rows and columns. That's all it is. Rows are horizontal, columns are vertical. It's about filling in spaces with color. It's about designating color on type. And it's about how thick the row is and how wide the column is. So August is a row, the days of the week are a row, and then all of these calendar dates are rows. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows, and 7 columns wide. Everybody see how I get that? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a text box right here, because tables go into text boxes only. They aren't art themselves. And then you go up to table, and you want to insert a table right there, right at the top. So I'm going to insert a table that I said was 7, what did I say, 8 rows high and 7 columns wide. That's all I really need to know, and I'll show you what pops up that. And the default is black outlines everywhere and filled with none. That's the default. So again, if I intuit this, so let me come over here to my artwork and just look at what I'm doing. If I intuit this, I want my calendar to go all the way to the margins down below. And so I'm going to have to make these rows equal in height, that one smaller and that one taller. When you work in a tab and table, when you work with tables, you always work with your text tool. If you want to select the whole table, you go to the upper left corner till you get that little diagonal. And this is the same in Excel, for those of you who are Excel people, right? Am I correct? All right. So I'm now selecting my whole table. And when I've selected my whole table, I have all these table measurements in the upper right corner of my formatting control panel. And look what happens. Just look at the pictures without even knowing what the heck you're doing. This goes up and down. So this is my row height. And it says my row height should be at least something. Let's make my row height exactly something. Okay? Let's make it, and then just incrementally increase it. Right? I went too far, so I got that little red overflow in the bottom right of my box, so I'm going to reduce it. Okay? Now it says make my columns exactly 6.78. Well, you know what? That's working for me. It's exactly 6.78, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Then I click off of it, and it's dealing with this one cell. Think of everything, every cell is one little block. Now what I want is I want the word August to have no outlines, and I want my entire table actually to have no outlines except for white. There's a white outline between what's filled up here. So if I go to my table, let me select the whole table, and let me fill my whole table up. Notice it's filled with none, stroked with black. Let me stroke it with not black. Let me go to my swatch panel and stroke it with white. And let me increase the size of my stroke. See how my table's kind of moving in? Can you kind of feel that? You watch it? And then, so I have a stroke of 8 points, and I'm just guessing. I'm winging this. And then I'm going to fill all my boxes with kind of a golden yellow. So let me pump up the yellow. Actually, let me eyedrop my yellow. Let me click my fill with my eyedrop and select that little creamy yellow there. And it says it's an RGB proxy. Okay. And I can even drag that yellow to my tool, my swatch panel. And I can change this right now from RGB, which we cannot print with, you already learned that today, to CMYK. So my color mode now changes to CMYK. All right, and I'm going to click off of it so you can see what I've got so far. So somehow I stroked it with yellow. I guess it was when I was clicking on things. So let me go back to my text tool. Let me select in the diagonal corner all my table. Let me go to my yellow stroke and turn it to white. And now let me click off of it and see what I got. So it's already starting to look a little better, right? Then, if we look at it, my first row is August, and there's no lines in between it, and the word August won't fit in a single cell. So I know that I have to take this whole row, and I have to merge all these cells to make it one big open block. So I go to my text tool, because everything happens in a table with a text tool. I go to the left of that row, and I get an arrow, which lets me highlight my row. And I can go to the table controls, and I want to merge my cells. And now it's one big cell, and I could type the word August. And I can make the word August large and purple. I'll drop the purple. We'll ignore the color for a moment. And I know how to change my type to 36 points, which fits. And notice it's small caps. And it tells you the font, so don't follow what the directions are for your font and so forth if they tell you. And I'm making the font, I'm eyeballing it. Notice the kerning is really open, or the tracking. So I'm going to set this up optically, but I'm going to increase the space between the word. I'm going to go to my paragraph panel, and I'm going to center it in this box. And then I also notice that this is a white background here, so I can fill this with none. So I can go here to my type tool, go back to my row, which is filled with yellow. I don't want it filled with yellow. I want it filled with nothing. I might want my stroke to be nothing also. I can do that. And we also know right here, notice there's controls. How you control where text sits in a table is different than a text box. So I can take my row and notice right, let's see where it is. Where my text is going to sit in this box. I'm looking for it. It's going to sit in this box in the center. Let's see if it'll do it right here. There we go. Follow that? All right. Then the next thing here is we want to make our next row purple and much smaller. So let me do this. Let me reduce the height of the row. Remember up here, the top? Let me reduce it. I'm eyeballing it. That looks pretty good. Let me stroke it with, we'll leave the stroke at white. Let's fill it with purple. I'll eyedrop a purple I want to use, a deep purple. Okay. I'm going to type the word Sunday. I'm going to select the word, edit, select all, Command A. I'm going to make the word white. I'm going to center the word in the box using my paragraph panel, centered. And I'm going to figure out what my longest word is, which is like Wednesday. So I better make the point size of my word smaller, correct? So let me take it down to 8 point. It's a sans serif font, so what do they usually use? Myriad. And they usually use condensed because it's narrow. I can take it up a size maybe. And then it's also vertically set in this text box. So again, I'm going to vertically align it to the center in the box. And now how this behaves here is great. So I can copy this. I can paste it here. We're going to run out of time, I can tell. Type Monday. And all the attributes are copied. Is everybody following that? Let me just do your dates. Your dates become obvious. They're in the upper left corner, right? And what you do notice is that these cells are now deeper because this one's shorter. So I can highlight just these cells by clicking on the outside, using my text tool and clicking and dragging, making them all active. And now I can increase, I'm sorry, not their width, but I can increase their depth. And sometimes you might just need to make your text box a little bit deeper. And again, I'm going to save my document. And you can see how we've got that calendar pretty fast, right? Okay, So we only have 3 more minutes till class is over. Are there any questions that I didn't address? What we're going to do, John and I, is we're going to try and put both these lectures up on the, right below on the homepage where it says Chapter 5 work. We'll try and have a link to these videos for you, so if you work on it on the weekend or this evening or something, or as soon as we can get it up, we will, okay? So let me free up your screens, and gosh, it's Wednesday, so you get to have a good weekend, and I'll see you Monday.